Let's take a look at active and passive voice. Now, active and passive voice is something we use in writing and how we label our sentences and how we construct our sentences. So it doesn't matter whether we're talking about simple, compound, or complex sentences, but we are going to take a look at the verbs that are being used. So we need to know that helping verbs are used in passive voice. And helping verbs are things like am, is, are, was, were, has, had. We'll see some of these examples as we go through here. So we either have passive voice or active voice. When we use passive voice, we will see these helping verbs more often. Active voice tells us who is doing the action. Passive voice doesn't tell us who's doing the action. It just says an action was done. Our helping verb was. So for example, an active voice would say, I made mistakes, and I am taking responsibility, and I say that I am the one making mistakes. I don't want to say I'm the one making mistakes. I could say mistakes were made. We don't know who's making mistakes, but they're still being made. I'm not lying. I'm not saying it's somebody else, but I know it's not I made mistakes. So passive voice hides who is doing the action. We're not sure who it is that's doing the thing. For example, here we can say that Mr. Worley dashed down the hall. This is active. We know who's doing the dashing. It's Mr. Worley. Now, if we change Mr. Worley to just a teacher dashed down the hall, this still counts as active voice. We don't know the specific teacher, but we know it's a teacher who's doing the action. We know it's a teacher who's dashing. So again, active voice puts the subject of the sentence first, so we know who's doing the action. Let's take a look at this. We see this a lot in news stories. If there is an incident and someone runs away and a police officer shoots somebody, we might hear a man was shot after running from a police officer. We don't know who shot the man. That doesn't tell us the whole story. The passive voice, the man is the focus, but we don't know who's doing the action. So we can change that. And an active version of this would be an officer shot a man who ran away from him. Again, passive voice means we don't know who's doing these things. Erie is known for the beaches at Presque Isle. All right, Erie is known for that, but we don't know who knows that stuff. Who's doing the knowing? So now we can say tourists know Erie for the beaches at Presque Isle, and that is an active voice. Now, one more note to help us look at how passive is phrased. We could have a simple sentence, the cake was eaten. We don't know who eats the cake. So maybe we can say the cake was eaten by my brother. Now, we know the brother's eating the cake, but the brother is not starting off the sentence. The cake is still the focus of our sentence here. To make this active, we would have to say, my brother ate the cake. But because we still have the helping word, even though we know who's doing it, this is passive because the sentence really ends there. And then we add the extra information at the end. Same thing here. The highway was closed. We don't know who closed the highway, but maybe it's closed by PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. Now here, we know that PennDOT's closing it, but the way the sentence is phrased, we have the highway was closed. So we sometimes see by at the end of a sentence. If it says by and then the person, we know that sentence is passive because that person who's doing the action isn't at the beginning. They just are tacked on at the end. So active and passive voice is really helpful for us when we're making an argument because normally we want to be active voice. We want to show what's going on. But if we're writing a mystery story and we don't want to know who's doing the murdering, the murders, maybe it's passive. Somebody was stabbed. Now we don't know who got stabbed. So passive voice adds some mystery or at least adds some ambiguity. Active voice clearly tells us who is doing what.